The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello, Dick Morris.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly say this is important to me for everyone to pray. My mother passed away Monday last week, and everyone just say a prayer if you would. That's all. She's all right. And better, she was starting to
give her name so we can hold it.
Gloria Cesano De Piero. She wasn't suffering, but she was starting to. Once in a while, she would have a bout with pain and whatnot. And she was like, please take me. And she was incoherent at one point, in and out. So she went at the right time. She was 94. And she would have lasted another 6 months or a year. She would have been in a lot of pain. So God bless her. That's all. All right, let's get to the show.
Oh, bless you, Doug.
Okay.
The news reports are full of the supposed deal between the U.S. and Iran. But until the details are out, we really can't see if it's happened. And until we see if Iran basically complies. What gives me pause about all this is that the key issue, which is what do they do with the enriched material that Iran has, and what do they do with future enrichment, is still to be negotiated. So the deal includes all the stuff that was negotiated before. And as a result, there'll be an opening of the Straits of Hormuz. There will not be relief from the sanctions for Iran. And this so-called deal seems to me is basically just Trump getting through re-election, or the congressional races, and stabilizing gas prices, probably bringing down gas prices. But the fundamental fact is that the gas prices have not gone up by much, a couple of cents, maybe for 30 or 40 cents a gallon, and until we see what happens with the fissionable material that Iran has, we don't really know what the deal is.
But that was part of his deal. It's zero enrichment.
Well, that's it.
Zero.
We have to see if that happens. Yeah.
Not 2%, 10%, zero.
Right. But we have to see if that really happens.
And do you think that has a lot to do, or some to do, with China? He just visited.
Yeah, I think it does. Let me give you a perspective on that. This is from I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter. Go on.
Yeah, whatever.
Just continue.
Putin's oil empire is burning. His shadow fleet is hunted. Ukraine is retaking ground, and China is choosing American energy over rescuing its ally. When Trump finishes Iran, Russia is next. Oil refineries in central Russia have been forced to halt or scale back fuel output after Ukrainian drone strikes. The affected plants represent more than 83 million metric tons of annual refining capacity, roughly a quarter of Russia's total, and account for more than 30% of Russia's gasoline and about a quarter of its diesel. You're watching in real time the collapse that we've been talking about. Russia's oil empire, the machine that funds Putin's war, props up his regime, gives Moscow what remains of its global leverage, is being taken apart piece by piece. This is by Rod Martin. The stick, of course, has always been twofold. First, choke Russia's cash flow by making its oil effectively unsaleable through sweeping sanctions and, since December, direct seizure of the illicit Shadow Fleet tankers carrying Russia's exports. Second, remove the geographic immunity Russia has always enjoyed by 4 years of arming Ukraine to strike deep into Russia, not just its military assets, but its economic ones as well. And crucially, removing the Biden-era leash, preventing it from doing so. Ukraine is striking Russia's production, refining, storage, pumping, and export infrastructure. Even India, previously one of the Kremlin's major de facto allies and energy purchasers, has begun interdicting Shadow Fleet tankers, those are the illegal tankers trying to run the blockade, while buying oil, LNG, and coal from the United States. Countries as disparate as Belgium, Sweden, and Malaysia have begun seizing tankers as well. Indonesia has signed a defense pact with the U.S., placing the crucial straits I don't have them all pronounced, but Sunday, Lombok, Makassar, and Malacca.
You did pretty good.
Even further under American control. And China, supposedly Russia's no-limits partner, is buying American LNG while refusing to approve the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline Moscow desperately needs to replace the European gas market it lost. Putin went to Beijing this week to sign that exact deal. He walked away empty-handed. Putin thought time was on his side. Trump used that time to close the exits.
Interesting.
And that's a perspective you don't really get from the anti-American media in the United States. The enormous progress.
Who wrote this? You just said it's
Rod Martin.
From where?
He's
doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's a great commentator, and I love his stuff. Meanwhile, Trump's endorsements in the United States have had enormous political leverage. Trump backed Ed Galleran, defeated Thomas Massey. Ed Galleran defeated Massey for the Republican nomination for Kentucky's 4th congressional district on Tuesday, delivering Donald Trump one of the biggest victories yet in his campaign to push dissenters from the GOP. The loss likely ends Massey's 14-year career in the House and closes out the most expensive House primary in history. Trump-backed Andy Carr wins Kentucky Senate primary to succeed Mitch McConnell. Trump-backed Andy Carr, a Republican in Kentucky, won the GOP nomination for Senate on Tuesday in a bid to succeed Mitch McConnell. Barr also served in the House since 2013, defeated Kentucky Attorney General David Cameron. The AP called the race, with Barr leading Cannon 64-28, with 5% voted in. Barr's victory marked a significant win for Trump, who endorsed the 7th-term earlier in the month, as another opponent, Nate Morris, also dropped out to accept a future ambassador post in the administration.
Hold on, let me ask you a question. Does Trump pretty much does that a lot? You know, he'll offer somebody something, so they do pull out. Do you think that's what that was, or no?
That was.
Yes. Yeah,
was.
Got it.
And he will get it.
Yeah, sure.
Ambassador to Luxembourg.
Yeah.
Trump endorses Ken Paxton ahead of the Texas Senate primary runoff. Trump made his long-awaited endorsement of Texas Senate primary, giving Attorney General Ken Paxton a definitive boost, ahead of his May 26th runoff. Ken Paxton has gone through a lot, and in many cases very unfairly, but he's a fighter. He knows how to win, Trump wrote. A country needs fighters and also loyalty to the cause of greatness. Trump said, I know Ken well. Has seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels, and he's a winner. Ken is a strong supporter of terminating the filibuster and, very importantly, the Save America Act. Paxton responded to the endorsement, saying he's incredibly honored to have Trump's complete and total endorsement. Trump defeats Bill Cassidy in the GOP primary.
His nemesis.
Louisiana lawmaker who angered the president by voting for impeachment has once again, Trump has terminated his political career. Senator Ken Paxton's run for re-election was cut short Sunday as voters heeded Trump's call to oust the 2-term Louisiana Republican.
No, you said Bill Paxton. Senator Bill Cassidy's run for re-election was cut short.
Sorry.
That's okay.
With the incumbent expected to finish third in the GOP primary. The outcome marks a dramatic end for Cassidy's decades-long run in politics, with the result again showing Trump's ability to make or break Republican careers. So you have 4 victories here, one in Kentucky, one in Texas, a big one in Louisiana, a big one in Kentucky, another one in Kentucky, and you're dealing here really with a guy who takes no prisoners.
You mean Trump?
Trump.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think it's becoming very clear that the reports of Trump's decline, of Trump's lack of power, of Republicans questioning Trump, are just bull. Trump showed tremendous strength in these primaries.
Oh, it's unbelievable. He's a real boss.
And John McLaughlin, the pollster who I use and Trump uses, said that Trump's approval rating is now 48%.
Wow.
which is what it's always been. His vote share in the 24 was 48%, 49. And basically, Trump has not lost a bit of support and has gained tremendous momentum. You have to do this. You have to talk about this constantly because you need to reframe the news that the media puts out there and have people understand just how total Trump's control of the Republican Party is.
You know, also, we have to speak about this shooting at the White House. I just want to bring it up. That was at the Eisenhower, where we go in all the time, where the Secret Service, that booth is. And they took the guy out. And I want to tell all the people that go on the news and talk about this, do not use this guy's name. Call him the creep, the number 4.
We can't pronounce it anyway. It's an Arab name.
Is it? Yeah, I read it this morning, but I said I'm not, because that's what they want. Even though they die, they want to be a martyr. So if you stop doing it, there will be some that say, well, my name's not going to get out there. Maybe I'll have a beer.
Yeah.
It won't go
Right.
out. And then I heard this morning from one of our security guys that, and I don't know this to be true, I think it is, Ivanka was targeted. I don't know about targeted, but there were assassination talk. Somebody was talking about it, chatter. I don't know where that is yet, so I can't confirm it. But this is horrible. This is really a disgusting thing. You know what? One of the things going on in the world is the Democrats like, oh boy, they missed them. Too bad. You know, people on Facebook and TikTok, all this stuff. Oh, they missed. That's the problem. I remember when Hillary, they found a bomb in her campaign office. She wasn't even there. It was in, who knows where it was, in some other state. And I remember, and I can't stand her. And I said, that's horrible that they found a bomb in her camp. You remember this when she was campaigning? Maybe in Oklahoma or something. I don't know. And I remember saying, I don't like her, but I don't want to see this happen. I don't want people killing her either or doing that type of thing. The Dems on that side, they don't care. They're mad that the guy missed, So I'm going to go with that. So
now,
you want to talk about Trump's drug thing? President Trump on Monday announced more than 600 generic medications are being added to the government's discounted drug website, Trump RX, dramatically increasing offerings from one of the Republican administration's key initiatives to help Americans struggling with high costs. Yeah, that's for sure. The beefed up website is the Trump administration's answer to criticism from Democrats who have called Trump RX performative and noted that many of the brand name drugs it has features are cheaper with insurance or have lower cost generic versions sold elsewhere. It also marks an effort to respond to a top voter concern for November's midterm elections, affordability. Health costs are a worry for many Americans, an issue compounded by the Republican-led Congress' recent cuts to Medicaid and the expiration of Enhanced Affordable Care Act, the Obama thing, subsidies this year that sent some people's premium skyrocketing. The expansion is made possible by partnerships with the online pharmacies, including Amazon Pharmacy, GoodRx, and billionaire investor Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs. Trump said at an event at the White House, he was talking about that. This has been the greatest breakthrough in lowering health care costs in modern history, but we're just sort of getting started, Trump said, calling Trump RX the hottest thing in medicine. It's about time, and I think it's going to happen. Listen, the art of the deal is what this guy does, right? So far, it seems like almost everything he touches is turned into gold. It just seems that way. Is it me because I like the guy?
Well, what's left?
Yeah,
he's settling the war in Iran. He's won all of these domestic primaries, and the economy's doing great.
Well, Dick,
incomes. Go ahead.
I said this 2, 3, 5 shows ago that he was going to settle this thing within weeks to a month. So the midterms, he's going to back out. Netanyahu, if he has to come in, will come in. But I knew he was going to finish this thing in a month. It's just knowing who he is and how he works his deals,
Also, it now appears that real wages that is adjusted for inflation are up under Trump in the first 16 months compared to steep losses under Biden. When oil prices fall below $80 a barrel, which they will soon, incomes and affordability will rise again.
What is oil right now?
105,
I don't even know, right? It'll drop. Yeah, listen, I filled up a couple of cars yesterday in Florida, and it cost me $100 or whatnot. But I even said, this is not going to kill me. It's not cheap, but it's worth not getting blown up with a nuclear bomb.
And the idea that gas prices going up to $5, $5.25, $5.50, from $4.80, $4.70,
right?
That's a global crisis. That's going to defeat Trump.
Is not.
This is not true.
That's right.
And what shows it's not true is McLaughlin's data that shows him still at a 48% job approval rating. And the primaries that show Trump winning all of the primaries by large margins against his major opponents, Cassidy and Massey.
Well, just to look at the experience and what he's done. He does everything he said he's going to do, so the prices are going to come down. Most likely. Everyone's thinking, all right, this is horrible. I don't like the idea of the gas so much, but it's going to come down, and we're not going to get blown up, hopefully.
Yeah, a manufactured crisis went away.
Yeah, right.
And Trump is really solving the real crisis, which is Iran having possibly nuclear weapons.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Listen, people know what this guy's been doing, and they believe in him. All right, we're going to take a break.
Well, we have 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Now UN climate experts admit that climate change won't destroy the Earth tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Apoplectic climate change predictions were box office gold for Hollywood, but they did untold damage to the public psyche, economy, and the average man's pocketbook. Now the United Nations Influential Climate Change Committee has quietly discarded the dire temperature rise scenarios used in the 2 previous reports, predicting horrific consequences of global warming if greenhouse emissions weren't curbed. For years, lefty outfits based on dubious climate science screamed about the coming climate catastrophe. The New York Times warned that climate change is harming the planet faster than we can adapt. The Times also said climate change is speeding toward catastrophe. A hotter future is certain. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman, insisted the world would end by 2030 if we didn't address climate change, by which she meant trillions on the Greenhouse New Deal and returning to Stone Age-style living.
Oh, my God.
Democrats went full tilt in accepting the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, reporting forecasts of dramatic rise in sea levels, rapidly melting glaciers, global crop failures. But let's face it, the UN scenarios were overblown from the start, and the left's climate crusaders hyped them even more. The newest IPCC report credits renewables, civilian climate policy, and recent emissions trends for making the most dire forecasts implausible. But even further reports, when read thoroughly, made clear that the looming catastrophe the left had predicted was nothing more than a politically useful fiction. Last year, Dutch researchers refuted projections of calamitous sea level rises by actually looking at the data gathered from coastal sites around the globe, rather than on models extrapolated from biased assumptions. None of which stopped the world from wasting trillions on futile climate change prevention or scaring young kids out of their minds.
I like that it says politically useful fiction. I call it political useful idiot fiction.
Yep.
It's so true. It's just scare tactics that they have to use. And the morons, the useful idiots go with it. Oh, look, it's going to, Manhattan's going to be 20 feet underwater.
And every year you read that the predictions of the previous years are wrong.
Always.
And constantly.
Well, you remember Al Gore? Oh, global warming. 6 months later, a year later, climate change.
Yeah,
it wasn't global warming anymore. Because every time he went to do a speech, the global warming speech, it was like the coldest
It's a freezing day.
Yeah,
right.
Like some snow in July. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back very soon.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Beep, 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 beep,
What is
beep,
that?
beep, 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 beep. That's Morse code for, this is Dick Morris with the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro
that's
Show,
what you just-
sponsored by the Patriot Gold
I
Group.
think you're a beep.
Beep, 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 beep,
Oh, my
beep, beep,
God.
beep,
That's
beep,
worse
beep,
than you
beep,
singing.
beep,
You know, when
beep,
Dick...
beep, beep, beep,
Oh, stop it.
beep. You know why I'm saying this? Rock.
Rock,
You're
we
on.
got Rock, On the Rocks is on, and we're going to talk about some On This
The
Day.
invention of Morse code.
Let her tell the
Beep,
story.
beep,
Hi,
beep,
Rock.
beep,
How are
beep,
you?
beep.
Rock, are you on?
Yes. Hi, guys. How
You
are
hear
you?
Dick Morris?
Beep, 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 beep,
I
beep,
do.
beep, beep.
Oh, I'm gonna give you a beep. I'm gonna give you a beep.
I know exactly what he's saying.
Let's hear it,
but
Rock.
first, but first I wanted to say and acknowledge, with respect and honor, the ultimate sacrifice of the fallen, which was said best by President Reagan in 1982. So just for a moment, as we honor their memory, let us pledge that their lives, their sacrifices, their valor shall be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this nation.
Oh, Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and on the day
on
when
to-
Trump has probably settled the war with Iran.
Oh, thank
So
you,
on
Rock.
this
I actually
day, I would-
forgot. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. So on this day, I will begin with a quote by Woodrow Wilson. We grow great by dreams, and all great men are dreamers. On this day, dreams became a reality in the U.S. by two such men. The first, Dick, was inventor Samuel Morse.
Beep,
who
beep, beep,
sent
beep, 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 beep. Go ahead.
Who sent his first message today in 1844, and the message was, "What hath God wrought?" from the book of Numbers. It took him 12 years to develop his idea of this telegraph system to sending his first message 144 years ago. He sent it from the U.S. Capitol in D.C. to a railroad station in Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
The word perseverance comes to my mind. The second was a man named John Roebling, a civil engineer who designed the plans for the Brooklyn Bridge, the world's first iconic steel wire suspension bridge, a total of over 14,000 main cables.
Amazing.
After 14 years of construction, quite a long time, on this day, it officially opened to the public. It was a celebration of great achievement and the lives of thousands of men who worked on its completion. I believe that today many families have had one of these such men within their own family history. And to celebrate P.T. Barnum, he led a parade of 21 circus elephants, including the famous Jumbo, to prove that the bridge was structurally sound and to calm public fears of taking that walk. And so it was. And so here we are.
But then after the elephants left, everybody ran onto the Brooklyn Bridge to celebrate that it was okay. And there was
Right.
a crowd.
Stampede.
And some people got killed
That
in
was
the
before.
stampede.
Yeah, that was before
I know that's
the
the
elephant
sad
thing.
part. Yes, absolutely.
The week before,
correct.
right.
I didn't have that though. But what is the one common thread connecting us to the Americans that followed their dreams, sometimes waiting years for an idea to become tangible fruition? Well, George Washington quoted, "The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph." And so it is, so it shall be, and blessings to all. Amen.
Thank you, Rock.
With the conflicts, the dreams, and all that we're facing today, we can all use some perseverance and patience.
Absolutely.
Beep, 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 beep.
I don't know how to shut him up. If I shut him up the way I want
I'm just
to,
doing
the
simultaneous.
show would end. 'Cause
I'm
you'd be
just doing
late.
simultaneous translation. Beep, 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 beep,
All right.
beep, beep.
Let me tell you this.
I know what to get you now. I'm going to find an old one.
Now, you know the song, "Heard It Through the Grapevine." You know the song? And I don't sing either, by the way, so don't do the beep, beep. No, stop. So anyway, "Heard It Through the Grapevine," the song, And that comes from Morse code way back when, probably a couple of years after this was invented and done. One of the presidents sent some mercenaries, some guys over towards the west to run wire so they could have teletype, so the Morse code, right? And it looked like grapevines because they would run these wires, like 50 bumps of wire, 50, maybe 100, so that if they break, they have more. And it looked like grapevine. So they used to say when you got a telegram, oh, something from the grapevine. Oh, what'd you get from the grapevine? That's where Heard It Through the Grapevine comes from. What do you think of that, Rock?
Beep, 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 beep. Hey, when I wave my arms around the simultaneous translation, you listen.
You're like an Italian.
Yeah.
That's the Jewish Italian version.
You know, they used the Morse code even after they transmitted over voice with radio live. They still used it for many, many years after that.
But, and you know, the military significance of Morse code was enormous. It gave Abraham Lincoln the ability to run the Civil War remotely.
Right.
He was able to his generals were terrible.
Get messages.
And he was able to, in real time, do battlefield deployments and run the Civil War.
Because it used to be a horse, a guy on a horse with a rolled up thing with a wax stamp on it. Listen, also, there's been up until a couple of years ago, the Holland Tunnel would have elephants go through the Holland Tunnel right before the circus started. It was a tradition for 100, I don't know how many years, 100 years, that elephants, they would stop, when the circus was coming into town, Madison Square Garden, right? Yes, right? They would stop, the elephant containers would stop at the Holland Tunnel, and they would take the elephants out and walk them through the Holland Tunnel. They would close the tunnel for 5 hours, whatever it took, right? That comes from the Brooklyn Bridge. It became a tradition. They started bringing the elephants every year over the Brooklyn Bridge, but then after, and I don't know how long, 10 years, 20, whatever it was, they said, no more bringing the elephants.
New York is a democratic city.
No, but that's
no more elephants.
They just closed the circus just recently, right? It was, thank God. I never liked the circus anyway.
I don't know. I call it the Congress.
Well, a Congress is a group of apes or chimpanzees. You know how you call
a Congress of apes? Yeah,
a Congress of I think chimpanzee. I'm not sure, but it's called a Congress.
Yeah,
a bunch of monkeys. So thank you, Rock. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Rock.
Guys.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Feel better.
As a result of Trump's visit with China, there are now concerns that he may restrict arms sales to Taiwan to improve relations. There have been forces in Taiwan who've been claiming the obvious, which is that Taiwan is no longer going to take over China, as Chiang Kai-shek hoped, but that in fact...
No, you mean China's not going to take over Taiwan. You just
No, I'm saying, right. Back after Chang lost the Civil War, and the communists took over China.
Circa, when was this?
1949.
Okay.
Chiang Kai-shek, the boss of the Chinese nationalists, and Formosa, who had been kicked out of China, kept up the fiction that they would return.
Oh, right.
That ultimately they would conquer China again. Just the next chapter in the Civil War. It wasn't until Nixon visited China that fiction went away.
Mao Zedong, right?
Yeah. And now increasingly, the Chinese are saying that unless the nationalists in Formosa, Taiwan, concede that they will not take over China, China will take over Taiwan. And Xi Jinping warned Trump about potential conflict over Taiwan. Trump is challenging longstanding U.S. policy toward Taiwan after his 2-day visit to China by announcing that he may restrict a multi-billion-dollar arms package for the island democracy in a bid to improve relations with Taiwan.
Won't that weaken Taiwan in China's eyes?
Yeah, it will.
But won't China then look at that and say, a couple more years, Trump will be gone, we'll take him, that's
I think that is what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. Taiwan's president, meanwhile, is pushing back against Trump's statements, saying that the island is provocatively risking war by seeking independence from Beijing. So basically what's going on is that China is flexing its muscles in Taiwan and threatening to come closer to taking over Taiwan. But it's not going to happen. Trump is considering using the arms sales as leverage in ongoing negotiations with China. Right now, the president is considering how to move forward on that. The reality is it's really important for the United States and China to have a stable relationship. Taiwan, in the meantime, is securing itself by becoming the world's leading and incredibly dominant producer of chips. 90% of the computer chips made in the world are now made by and in Taiwan.
And the one thing Trump said, the Chinese president asked him whether the United States would defend Taiwan amid concerns over Chinese attack. Trump responded, I don't talk about those issues.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go with that.
Well, there's always been a deliberate policy of ambiguity.
Yeah,
the United States has never said that it will defend Taiwan if China attacks. It has moved aircraft carriers in position to do that.
Right. Actions speak.
But then Taiwan really took matters into their own hands in a very positive way by dominating the world's computer chip industry, with over 90% of the chips in the world now made in Taiwan, and the island producing all of the advanced chips. Nobody can afford to see Taiwan back under Chinese control. And that's really what's inhibiting them. Xi Jinping, the leader of China, can't admit that because he needs to still talk about, we're going to conquer Taiwan in the future, just not tomorrow.
See, that's where your brilliance comes in. We talked about this a couple of months ago, and you're able to recall that story again. That's the difference between smart and really smart. He can't remember somebody's name that just walked into place, but he can't remember that.
Well, my Morse code is really good.
Oh, God, please. So, U.S. and Nigeria kill ISIS leader. The U.S. military killed a top ISIS commander in a joint mission with Nigeria. President Trump announced this. He described the mission as meticulously planned and very complex, resulting in the death of the most active terrorist in the world. Here's another one I have to try to figure out how to say.
This is one you have to, because we want him to be famous.
That's right. That's right. This is one I will say the name. Absolutely. Abu Bilal al-Minuki. I'm going to call him Minuki Honey. You know Manuka Honey? So anyway, Abu Bilal al-Minuki, second in command of ISIS globally, thought he could hide in Africa, but little did he know we had sources who kept us informed on what he was doing. Trump wrote this on the Truth Social. He will no longer terrorize the people of Africa or help plan operations to target Americans. With his removal, ISIS's global operation is greatly diminished. The president then thanked the Nigerian government for his partnership. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said the terrorist compound was in the Lake Chad Basin, which borders Niger, Chad, and Nigeria. The terrorist leader was deemed a specially designated global terrorist by the State Department. War Secretary Pete Hegseth said the United States hunted al-Minuki for months because he was killing Christians. In turn, Hegseth revealed, we killed him and his entire posse. I love this. In November, Trump directed the Department of War to help protect persecuted Christians in Nigeria. That order led to a December airstrike that targeted ISIS militants in Western Africa countries. The latest operation marks Trump's continued commitment to protecting Christians from Islamists. I love this. Abu Bilal al-Minuki was the senior ISIS general directorate of Province Emir, the number 2 for ISIS globally. Why is this so difficult for me? Responsible for overseeing the planning attacks, directing hostage taking, and managing financial operations. He posted this on X this morning. The removal of him and other ISIS personnel makes Americans safer by further degrading ISIS' ability to plan and carry out attacks that threaten the U.S. homeland, American citizens, and innocent civilians. U.S. Africa Command oversaw the precise operation, Hex has said, after it was approved by Trump in conjunction with Nigerian president. AFRICOM posted a minute-long video of the aerial footage that captured the fatal.
There is this quiet civil war going on in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, which is the largest country in Africa, between the Christians and the Muslims. And there is a serious effort of taking vast numbers of hostages and murdering large numbers of people by the Muslim caliphate.
The number's ridiculous, right? The Christians
Yes.
in Nigeria, it's in tens of thousands or even more, I think.
That still live there, millions. Wow. Half of Nigeria is Christian, half is Muslim.
No, how many were taken out or killed recently?
Hundreds.
No, I think it was in the thousands.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look it up during the break.
But the point is that the U.S. is taking this very seriously and working with the Nigerian forces, eliminating that.
Good, thank God.
And this is an enormous global thing.
We can thank God, for keeping Trump alive to do this.
But closer to home, retail sales rose solidly in April, and there were few signs of gas price strain.
High gas prices have not deterred Americans from spending at stores. This is interesting. Shopping online and dining out. Retail sales data from the U.S. government shows Thursday. American spending at retail stores, online shops, and restaurants rose by a solid 0.5% in April, the Bureau of Economic Analysis said. That matched the consensus forecast of economic surveyed by the business news outlets. Compared with a year ago, spending is up an impressive 4.9%, at 5%. Wow. Spending at gas stations rose sharply due to soaring fuel prices. In April, drivers spent 2.3%, basically, 3% more at gas stations than March, when spending jumped to 13.7% from the previous month. Compared with a year ago, spending is up 20.9%.
But there are a few signs.
Hard to believe this.
But the consumers are not pulling back in spending in other parts of the economy. Spending at bars and restaurants, highly discretionary category, considered likely to see a decline if consumers were very worried or financially strained, rose 0.6% in April. Compared with a year ago, Americans spent 3% more in eating and drinking spots. So at least we're raising a glass to the embargo. Spending at electronics and appliance stores rose 1.4% for the month. Compared with a year earlier, it's up 7.6%. The category that includes sporting goods stores and bookshops saw a 13.4% annual gain. General merchandise shares showed an increase of 3%. Online spending grew by 1% in April from a year ago, up 11%. Sales at home improvement stores and garden centers rose 11%. High gas prices may weigh on the auto sales, but other retail sales do not show any drop.
You know what this is like, sort of? This is a good example. Christmas time comes, you have to spend the money on your kids, and you think, people do it. They still spend that money because they know Christmas is over in a month, right? They know this gas thing is over in a month or two. So that's one of the reasons.
And the total fantasy that this is hurting Trump in the midterms. Trump is in great shape in the midterms.
Right. Oh, without
the polling reflects that. And the deal with Iran that'll further lower it will make it even better.
Without a doubt. We have to take a break. We'll talk more about this on the other side.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Dick, let's go to the phone. Let's take Sandra in New Jersey. Hi, Sandra.
Hey, Sandra.
Hello, Doug and Dick and Roxanne. Happy Memorial Day.
Yes.
I wanted to say something. I have a very big concern here, and I think it's very legitimate, and I wanted to pass it by you. So I have learned that in China, there's drugs that they have APIs called active pharmaceutical ingredients. Now, Dick, they have 80% of the drugs that we use here in America, and I read that in 2 months, if we didn't get their drugs, we would be in very deep trouble because we wouldn't have the medicine. These are antibiotics I'm talking about.
But Trump has succeeded in closing that gap significantly. Maybe 80% now, but it was 90%. And a few more months, a few more years, it'll be largely gone. Trump has been
manufacturing
very effective in that.
here and new people.
And stopping China from undercutting our industry.
Yeah, that's important. Well, that's what he does with a lot of businesses. He gets them back here, which a lot of presidents drove them away, like Hochul driving people out of New York. Trump is driving pharmaceuticals back. Thank you, Sandra. Anything else? You got anything else?
No, I wasn't done yet. I wanted to say I like that he's making the drugs cheaper, but there's a big problem going on in China. They are making $8.9 billion in organ transplants, and we can't look the other way. But we look the other way because their medicine. This is my concern. This is what I said. Why I said we have a legitimate concern here. We need them. We're dependent on them.
Right.
Maybe it's getting better. I hear you, Dick, and I'm glad about that. But how can we look at this big problem, what they're doing over there with innocent people, if we have to turn our eyes a little bit because we need them for drugs? That was my point.
Yep. Good points.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Sandra.
We have a hard break again. We're sorry, Sandra. We have to go.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, that news story about Sharia law is very important. The goal of the Muslim extremists, the jihadists, is to gradually extend Sharia law to a point where it becomes an essential element of jurisprudence all over the country. And by Texas taking action against it, we're really dealing with something very, very important. Already there was an effort in Texas to create a Sharia law zone in which Sharia law would be controlling. And that's what they did in London, and that's what they've been doing in the UK. And this effort to restrict it is very important.
It has to be. We can't have this happening in our country. It's horrible. It's not going to happen anyway. Not after Trump and the whole. That's not going to happen. Anyway, listen to this. This is, and I'm going to, after this, I talk about this, I got to tell you my feelings about this. I'm 50-50 on this thing. Driverless cars could save 30,000 lives a year. What a paradox. The public resistance to AI is growing at a roughly the same rate that the hard evidence is showing spectacularly health benefits and lives saved from AI's everyday applications. Here's the latest. Doctors from around the country are rallying around the rapid adoption of automated vehicles, AVs they're calling it, because of the dramatic reduction in car accidents and serious injuries. 2025 peer-reviewed study, which examined more than 50 million fully driverless miles on public, I thought it was going to be saying cars, 50 million fully driverless miles on public roads, has found 80% reduction in crashes compared with human drivers. I believe that. Intersection crashes down 96%. Pedestrian down 92%. Cyclists or motorcycle crashes down 83%. Lateral crashes 73%. This data comes from Waymo, which admittedly has a clear bias because they operate the AVs, but it still well establishes that nearly 90% of accidents are due to drive. Of course it is. 100% of them are due to drivers. People are driving. We don't have AVs yet. 90% of accidents are due to driver error and increasingly drivers texting while their cars swerve. Well, listen, I'm on my motorcycle every day, as you know, and that I see more than ever. Cars swaying. I go by. I'm looking for them they're on their phone. Now they're on their little screen in the middle, and they're doing a thing. It's ridiculous. It used to be 30 years ago, I used to say women drinking coffee and doing their makeup, going to work. Now it's everyone on the phone and whatnot. Around 40,000 Americans die on the roads each year. More than 2 million Americans suffer serious, and all right, we know that. New York, Massachusetts, Washington, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C. have laws blocking these robo-taxis in their states, mostly at the behest of the taxi lobby. The author of this letter, Jonathan Slotkin, the chief medical officer at health system in Pennsylvania, explains his underlying motivation. I'm a neurosurgeon that practices and frequently have blood on my hands from car crashes, including of children. So, we had a Subaru quite a while back, and I couldn't stand it. Not to talk bad about it. They're great.
Kept talking to you.
They're great cars. They were without a doubt great. I couldn't stand this friggin' thing. I couldn't get rid of it quick. It was a liberal. It was the you're going too fast, you're going too slow, you're going over the line. I almost cursed. I hear you get the button ready for me, right? I couldn't stand this car. It's a great car, but me as a driver, I could not take that. It was telling me what to do, but it drove itself similar. If you keep your hands touch the wheel, it drove me from Connecticut. I tried it out. I tested it. And
that drove me crazy.
Yeah. It drove me from Connecticut to New York City to Trump Tower. I never touched the gas, the brake, or the wheel. You have to keep your hands on the wheel. If you take your hands off the wheel for whatever it was, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, it'll beep, beep, and it shuts off the automatic thingamajig. It was unbelievable, but I didn't trust it. And I'm worried about it. So I'm indifferent right now. I think I'll be okay with this.
I had a great conversation with my wife, Eileen. She said, I don't trust automatic vehicles. And I said, you don't trust them, but you trust my driving?
Yeah, right. Don't ever trust.
You're doing something wrong.
Dick Morris's driving. What do we got? A couple of seconds? Okay, we got to go. We're going to take a break. We're at these hard breaks a lot, but that's all right. All right, we'll see you on the other side.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. During the break, we got a call asking us to summarize what's going on with Iran. And you have to see this negotiation as peeling an onion. The first step is to make sure that they are not continuing to enrich uranium. The second step is to make sure that the uranium they've gotten is given to the United States or to some other country, even Pakistan, which already has the bomb. So it's okay if they get more material, they're not going to develop it.
Whoa. Yeah?
Pakistan already has a
I know
nuclear
that.
weapon.
Okay,
and
go on.
So there's nothing wrong with their getting enriched uranium.
I know about that. All right.
So, I believe that this is a deal that will not happen in an instant. The only reason that they're talking about doing it very quickly right now is, frankly, that it's a Memorial Day, and Trump has got to lower gas prices.
And also, but one other thing, quickly means, see, Trump's brilliant with this stuff. I mean, he's the art of the deal. He is the art of the deal. He knows that they're going to say, sure, let's do it, and hold and stall as long as they can.
That's their tactic.
That's their tactic, and he knows
But what he's doing is he's saying we're going to keep the blockade,
which
is costing them a vast amount every day.
That's right.
Destroying their economy.
Right. In other words, we're not going to give up the blockade while we're talking about the ceasefire.
Exactly.
I don't think so.
Exactly.
You want this blockade to come off, then you do what we're telling you we're going to do, and send in inspectors and so that's where remember Saddam Hussein? You send in and he'd kick him out. He'd open the door and say you can't come in.
Yep.
So I think Trump knows what he's doing, but is it gonna work?
Yeah, eventually it will.
Yeah, I hope so.
Look, the important point is that he has stopped Iran from developing its power.
That's right.
And they can continue to rattle our cage by claiming that they're enriching. But I think that we've been very successful in stopping it.
And he opened up a bar where they all do shots until they get bombed. Are we doing number 8?
The U.S., working with the U.K. and the IAEA, successfully removed highly enriched uranium from a Venezuelan research reactor. The operation was carried out by the Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration. The existence of highly enriched uranium had long been used in old RV-1 reactor for research purposes well before the socialists took over the country. It ceased operation in 1991 and hasn't been used since. Beginning in April, the uranium was transferred from the shutdown reactor south of Caracas, 100 miles overland, to a nighttime convoy protected by Venezuelan military. The uranium was placed in a British ship and shipped to the Department of Energy's Savannah research site in South Carolina.
Beautiful.
The safe removal of all enriched uranium from Venezuela sends another signal to the world of a restored and renewed Venezuela.
And that's the National Nuclear Security Administration, the NNSA.
There's a new study out that shows that 40% of New York City's population, 40%, is foreign-born. Not just second or third generation immigrants, but foreign-born. Almost half the city wasn't born in this country. New York isn't an American city anymore, by any reasonable definition of the term.
Listen, I don't mind any immigrant, any foreigner at all. Don't wave your flag anywhere. Forget my face. Don't wave another. You pick up the American flag. Listen, my mother and my parents, my grandparents from Italy, right? We weren't allowed, number one, to speak Italian outside of the house unless you went to an Italian restaurant.
You can't speak Italian.
I can't even speak English.
You wouldn't be able to get a Coke or a hamburger.
I can't even speak English. Speak Italian. No, but seriously, we weren't allowed to speak our language of our descent, right? Our Italian language, right? And because it was an insult. It sounded like you were whispering and insulting people. And that's the way it was. You never, ever would have an Italian flag anywhere without an American flag above it. We just knew that's the way it is, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So I don't care who's here and what they're speaking. Don't, be American, acclimate.
But when you see the election of Mandami,
horrible.
It puts it in a new perspective to know that 40% of the people in New York City are foreign-born.
Yes.
And it's increasing.
And they're Muslims, and they hate us, and they want Sharia law. Let's just face it. I'm tired. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The Muslims do not like us. Even the nice ones. I'm sure there's some nice ones that I don't think so. And if you're not going to turn to their religion, they're going to chop your head off, whatever they're going to do. They're going to throw the gay people off the building. That's just what it is. And the Sharia law, I can't bring my dog into you. I don't think so, pal. I'm going to bring 4 Rottweilers in there and let them loose. Did I say how I felt?
Yeah, I think you did. I think you got your point across.
Good.
The important point to bear in mind here is that we are dealing with a new situation with Trump because of his anti-weaponization fund. Trump has said that Trump was sued by the IRS for $10 million in back taxes. He settled the lawsuit with the IRS. And as part of the settlement, he announced the creation of what he called an anti-weaponization fund, which would be at least $1 billion.
Wow.
And the Democrats have been going crazy criticizing this, saying that Trump essentially sued himself. He had the IRS sue him, then he settled, and part of the settlement was this anti-weaponization fund. It's $1.8 billion, and it's created to help those who believe they were wrongfully targeted by the government to settle their claims, as Donald Trump was. Democrats in particular have argued that those convicted of assaulting police officer during the J6 attack on the Capitol could seek restitution from it. 2 officers defending the Capitol have in fact filed a suit to block the fund. When CNN correspondent asked Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, whether he would support individuals that hurt police officers receiving taxpayer dollars, he replied, "People that hurt police get money all the time. Here, there's a process where if you believe you have your rights violated, you can apply for funds, you can sue, you can file a claim, you can go to court. In some of these cases, the state, federal, and the federal government settle these cases. It's abhorrent to ever touch a law enforcement officer, which is why anytime anybody does that, it's a federal officer, we prosecute them. But it's a completely different question whether an individual is allowed to apply for a claim." Blanche announced the creation of a fund on Monday as part of a settlement in President Trump's since withdrawn lawsuit against the IRS. Trump sued the agency in January after his prior tax returns were leaked to news sources. The fund will have the power to issue formal apologies and monetary relief to those who successfully claim that the federal government wronged them, according to the DOJ. The administration added there are, of course, no partisan requirements to file a claim. The department also cited a precedent from Keepsicle versus Vilsack settlement when the Obama administration created an $800 million fund to address individual claims accusing the Department of Agriculture of racism against Native Americans. To be eligible for payouts from that settlement, claimants had to be Native American and had to prove they were framed or ranched or deliberately or attempted to farm or ranch between 81 and 99. They also had to prove that they sought a loan or loan servicing from the department during that period. City, county, and state governments have also awarded more than $4 billion in compensation to victims' families as part of police misconduct settlement. But Blanche, Trump's former personal attorney, said Wednesday that it would not be appropriate for him to comment on who's eligible for restitution from the anti-weaponization fund. We can talk about hypotheticals blue in the face, but we need to see who really gets paid.
Listen, it's every thing is it's an individual. You can't look at this across the board. Everyone that sues about police or the opposite.
Well, this is a way to make sure the J6 people get some justice.
That's right.
They were set up by the FBI.
Absolutely.
The FBI infiltrated the J6 demonstrators with hundreds of agents. And they weren't just
Was this proven? Wait, you're saying this is allegedly?
Proven.
It was proven.
Admitted by the FBI. And they were not just there to stop violence. They were agents provocateurs.
Really?
They were people who were sent there to try to make the J6 demonstration into a riot.
I didn't know that it was a proven
Over 400 FBI agents have been confirmed to have been in the mob.
Wow.
So you're dealing with a serious effort to try to provoke anti-Trump violence.
Of course.
And as a basis for the left wing opposing him.
Like I always say, Dick, the left has the most amazing machine in the world to do this. Evil machine.
Now, I think
should say it, evil machine.
Now, I think Trump is overreaching with his anti-weaponization fund. And I think that he feels that I was horribly punished for this by their suing me when they shouldn't have.
But he dropped it.
But he dropped the lawsuit.
He did it to bring awareness to it more than he's not suing them for money. If it's anything, he wants to show you're not going to do this anymore. I don't think he cares about.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I think that there were a lot of people who were seriously hurt or bankrupted because of the FBI prosecution after January 6th. And people whose reputations were destroyed. And I think Trump is right for setting up a fund to compensate these people. I think to make it generic to be with so many people, I think may be wrong, but I think in this focus it makes sense.
But they'll tweak it as it goes. They'll tweak who gets, who doesn't. It's going to be up to whether it's a judge or somebody that, right? I would imagine.
Yeah, they will.
You know. All right,
where's the beef?
Yeah, well, I give up.
Republicans better to bring down costs before July 4th. There's a beef shortage in America and driving up prices at the grocery store for burgers and steaks just as summer outdoor grilling season gets started. This isn't helping the affordability crisis, so what can be done to make these cheeseburgers less expensive? Ground beef prices hit record highs this year, with average prices approaching $7 a pound nationally. That's almost 15% higher than consumers paid last year and more than 50% higher than 5 years ago. Beef and veal prices continue to increase in a way that far outpaces wages. The reason for this is that for a decade, the beef producers, including particularly communist China, have done their best to drive slaughterhouses out of business. And the number of slaughterhouses and processing facilities in the U.S. has been cut from hundreds to only a handful. There are 4 companies that control something like 90% of the meat processed in the U.S.
4 companies.
And 2 companies, including Smithfield Hams, which is largely owned by China, that control pork production. And as a result, when farmers want to kill cattle or pigs to produce beef and pork, they can't bring them to a range of slaughterhouses, just a few. The end of the funnel is very thin.
Right.
And they use that to raise the prices, to create a monopoly.
Bit of a monopoly, sure.
And Trump is now for the first time suing them to stop this monopoly. And I think he'll be successful. I think it's going to be very important. But a big reason why beef and pork prices are so much higher is because the monopoly is trying to exert control.
Okay, so with that, and I don't care how much it is, it's not that expensive. The best hamburger in the world, we go to Argentina, we go everywhere, is Trump Tower, the Trump Grill. And it sounds like I'm kissing ass over here. I am not. I don't care if he likes me, doesn't like. I don't care what it is. It is the best hamburger ever. And his steak's unbelievable. He's got Cammie, his executive chef. She's unbelievable. She loves me. But his hamburgers are so... Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
And then you go there, you have the salmon with the thing and the other thing. But the burgers are so... I can't help it.
And there's always plenty of seats.
Yeah. It's a great... You got to go to the Trump Grill. 56 and 5th Avenue. Is that it? Right?
Yeah.
56 and 5th Avenue. You got to go to the Trump Grill and have any steaks or any food there is amazing. But the burgers are the best. I had to do it. Sorry, Mr. President. I had to plug your place. Sorry.
Now, SpaceX is about to list its shares publicly.
Okay, I could get through this. Ready? As SpaceX, his rocket firm, prepares to list its shares, it's impossible not to be impressed by this
Elon Musk's ambition.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He wants to build data centers in space, powered directly by the sun, untroubled by not in my backyard, and ready to supercharge his quest to build the world's most powerful artificial intelligence. How much of this will work, nobody knows. But SpaceX's IPO could make him a trillionaire, as wealthy as all the households in this country combined.
And it's right. He doesn't care how much it's going to cost. He's going to make money.
The idea of powering a reactor in outer space directly from the sun is amazing.
That's so beautiful. I'm going to look into this now. All right, listen, we have to take a break, and when we come back, maybe I'll look into it.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Israel worries about a bad deal with Iran that could derail strikes in the future to further degrade the regime. Trump and Netanyahu held a contentious call this week, people familiar with the matter said, with Netanyahu railing against the pact to end the war with Iran and Trump defending the diplomatic process. Israel has long expressed skepticism that Iran would ever abide by any agreement to dismantle its nuclear work. Netanyahu reiterated these points with Trump in the Tuesday call. Trump was unconvinced, telling Netanyahu he continued to pursue an accord that prevents Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. But on this one, I have to side with Mr. Netanyahu.
Yeah, me too.
I think that Trump is being freaked by the onset of Memorial Day weekend and the gas prices rising. But the polling and the retail sales show he doesn't have to be freaked. The polling shows that Trump's approval rating is still at 48%, what it's been for the last couple of months, where it was on Election Day. The higher gas prices are not imperiling his ability to keep Congress.
But maybe,
and the retail sale data is very strong.
Yeah, but maybe Trump's ego, on the positive side, he's thinking to himself, I can make them do this. Even though I know he's thinking, trust but verify, all that kind of business. And he's thinking, they're just stalling me. But I think somewhere in his mind, he really believes they might cave. It's hard to believe that, but I think he has that in him.
I think what Trump's doing, I think what's going on is they are caving. And I think Trump will count that. But they're not going to have a surrender ceremony. It's not going to be like Definitely on the USS Missouri.
Definitely not.
Where Japan signed it.
No way.
They're not going to admit it.
No way.
This regime will continue to claim a victory. It'll actually continue to claim that it's violating the deal.
Wait, who are you talking about?
The Iranians
are going to claim
that they're violating the deal.
That they are.
That they are. That they're not abiding by it. That there really never was a deal.
Show this muscle. That we're strong enough not to.
We've knocked out so much of their nuclear capacity, so much of their military capacity. And they have to keep up appearances. They have to appear that they're in control.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll be toppled domestically.
Kind of like Putin.
Well,
he had to show
almost Putin.
Yeah.
But we're worse than Putin.
Yeah, right.
And I think that what Trump is trying to do is to do a victory dance, not where there is no victory, but where the other side won't admit that there's a victory. And I think that that's very possible.
I think he really could come through with the deal because nobody believes Trump bluffs. So that's the thing. I'm not going to bluff you. I'm going to close down the strait forever. I'm going to sell my oil. China's going to freak out that they don't have their stuff from Iran. So I don't know. This is a difficult one. It's impossible to
it's
speculate.
Impossible to see what really is going on in Iran and distinguish the bluff from the reality.
Yeah.
And I think that Trump is increasingly claiming victory, where I don't think Iran is letting him do that. Now, while that's going on and while we're measuring the degree of death of Iran, the DOJ indicted Cuba's Raul Castro on murder conspiracy charges.
Wow, this is amazing.
Raul Castro has been indicted by the U.S. federal court for murder and conspiracy. The charges stem from a 1996 attack on planes aiding Cuban refugees. 4 Cuban exiles were killed in the shoot-down off Cuba's coast. Raul Castro, who spent years at the pinnacle of Cuban government alongside his brother Fidel Castro, has been indicted in a U.S. court on charges of murder and conspiracy. Raul Castro, 94, was first vice president and minister of defense at the time of the shoot-down, which the U.S. said happened in international waters. The attack killed U.S. citizens who were part of Brothers to the Rescue, a group of Cuban exiles who flew pro-democracy propaganda missions on the island. Castro was captured on audio claiming his personal responsibility for the order to shoot down the planes. For nearly 30 years, the families of 4 murdered Americans have waited for justice. The indictment handed up last month by a grand jury in Miami and kept secret until now. It's the latest in a string of efforts by the Trump administration to pressure Cuba into a more cooperative relationship with the U.S.
Interesting.
It was those waters the Brothers of the Rescue flew over in a Cessna 337 Skymaster.
Cessna 337.
Their mission included guiding or aiding Cubans attempting dangerous crossing and dropping pro-democracy leaflets. Now, people are worried. The Democrats are claiming that this is all preparatory toward a U.S. invasion of Cuba. I don't think so. In fact, one of the things that's been said is that Trump is anxious to quickly resolve the situation in Iran so that he can free resources to invade Cuba. And in fact, he took one of our major aircraft carriers out of the Straits of Hormuz and sent them to the Caribbean to reinforce that. I think that this is Trump's bargaining strategy with the Cuba regime. And I think that what's going to happen is that Cuba, the communist regime, will be dismantled piecemeal. And you'll have one piece now and another piece later.
You know, I just wrote a note, not invade, dismantle.
Yeah.
He's dismantling.
Exactly. What he's going to do is
Cuba.
he's going to go to Cuba and he's going to say, okay, you're not getting any oil.
Right.
You want a cup of oil? Return for this cup, you got to deregulate this casino.
Right.
In return for this gallon of oil, you got to eliminate this restriction. Right. In turn for a barrel of oil, you got to relieve a whole bunch of restrictions. Mm-hmm. And I think that Trump is going to cut deals with the former proprietors of these properties who live in Cuba, live in Miami. And he's going to say, you can go ahead and you can reopen. You can operate. The government will let you keep the revenues. And we will piece by piece dismantle the communist regime.
First of all, people, and see, now I got to come out with this. I've been talking about this for a couple of months. This is so important. You got people, Cubans in Miami, that have businesses that are doing well, whether it's a club or a restaurant. 90 miles away, their homeland, they can go over there, open up the Cuban restaurant 2, right? And have people from Miami walking over, flying over, swimming over to use and back and forth. This is unbelievable. You have people from Miami, Cubans, that are successful and opening up business, same type of business. And then you fly over with a puddle jumper, you come over for the weekend on a little ship. Absolutely. That's what's going to happen. And I want in.
I think that Trump is dismantling Cuba piece by piece, dismantling the communist regime.
Right.
And I think it's going to be very effective.
So he doesn't have to invade anything.
I don't think you're going to see boots going up the sand beaches.
No way.
You're not going to see an invasion. You won't even see a Maduro-like raid. You're never going to capture a 94-year-old guy. I think that what's going to happen is gradually he's going to cut deals between Cuba and Cuban entrepreneurs that live in the U.S.
That's right.
to take back their old properties and restore a capitalist economy to Cuba piece by piece. And the enforcement mechanism will be, how much oil do you want?
And I'm going to say right now, I want to open up a restaurant. I want to buy a whole block, and I want to call it, this is what I'm going to call it, 1958. The restaurant and the thing, you know, the year, because wasn't Castro 1959 when he took over? I want to call it 1958 and put my 1959 Corvette that I've been restoring for a year now there. I got all my ideas ready.
He's going to do something in between an invasion, an embargo, and a raid to arrest.
Absolutely.
What he's going to do is gradually decontrol Cuba.
Dismantle.
Yeah.
I believe that 100%. 100% that's the way he's going to do it. He doesn't have to hurt anybody. He's going to hurt them in their pocket and with the blockade and all that. That's it. This is beautiful.
And the beauty of this is that he controls the oil. And he can release a tanker here, a barrel there. And he can say, well, I'm going to do this gradually. And you decontrol your communist regime. And I will decontrol the embargo.
Let me ask you, and I don't know this, I don't even know if you would know this. The people, first of all, they don't have guns. They really can't rise up against the government, can they?
Yeah, I don't think they can.
They can't, right.
And I think that the idea of waiting for it, like we have to do in Iran, Iran's 93 million people in a huge country. Cuba's 10 million and
right.
not...
They don't have anything.
That's
so,
right.
like you said... I didn't think about that, to get some of the older guys that had the casinos, had the restaurants, money will have to do it, not arms.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
You want to take a call? Do we have time to take a call?
We do.
Yeah. Let's take Richard from Long Island. He wants to talk about Taiwan. Hello,
Hey,
Richard from Long Island.
Hello, guys. Good afternoon. I've never heard this mentioned, but wouldn't you think the Taiwanese have a poison pill in place where they have their major factories wired for the destruction, and then a soldier arrives from the mainland?
Yes.
And on the other hand,
yes, they have a tripwire probably blowing up their chip manufacturing. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. See, I know Taiwan well. I got the president elected there in 2006, and his name was Chen, Chen. He's since died. And he ran for president of Taiwan on a platform of independence. It was called the Independence Party. And what he did was Taiwan originally was founded by Chiang Kai-shek, who ran China. And he lost the civil war to Mao. And he fled China and went to Formosa and took this state in China and said, now I'm making this the nationalist Chinese government. And the U.S. protected it against Chinese invasion. The election of 1960, for example, one of the big issues was China was shelling two offshore islands, Quemoy and Matsu, and they were largely uninhabited, and Kennedy promised to fight to defend them. One inch of freedom, he used to say. But when that ended, when Nixon recognized China, basically the China decided we have to take care of ourselves. And the way to do that is not to declare independence. Chen was elected by the Chinese people, and the communist government on the mainland said, we'll close you down, we'll invade you, and we'll take all kinds of hell to pay if you continue saying that you're going to be independent. So what China nationalists did was they decided that China, Taiwan, Formosa, call it what you will, would become the world's dominant suppliers of computer chips. And they took over the chip industry, and the U.S. helped them do that.
This is in the 70s, 80s?
No, this is now. This is 5 and 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Taiwan now produces the vast majority of chips in the world. Right. And the world cannot afford, China cannot afford the consequences of its own actions in conquering Formosa. Because you're right, there'll be probably a scorched earth policy, they'll blow up their facilities, and the global economy will come to a halt. And nobody can afford that. And in reality, it's not so much the military deterrence that Taiwan has, their ability to sink Chinese ships and stuff, and so nobody invades them. But in fact, it's the ability to sabotage their own computer industry, their own high-tech industry.
So, Richard, did you get an answer for that? We kind of cut you off, but what do you think?
It's okay. You know, as an aside, don't you think that the embargo is Trump's way of sticking it to China? The blockade? He's in the...
Yeah, I think it's part of it. I think that he did that deliberately, and I think he went to China.
It's a carrot and a stick.
Yeah, there's another element in this. Trump did not leave China empty-handed. He walked away with an agreement for a pipeline that is going to go from the Middle East to Europe. And it's going to replace the American oil shipments that are now going through LNG, liquefied natural gas, because of the embargo of the Straits of Hormuz. And the pipeline is increasingly going to replace boat shipments from these places. And he did that because China wanted the oil, but also in an effort to decrease the power that Iran would have. And I think that is also very important. And I think that China knows that now Trump is going to increasingly control the flow of oil out of the Straits of Hormuz, because it's going to be on a pipeline that the U.S. is building.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So why don't we go to Joseph in Connecticut?
Hi, Joseph.
Hello, Dick and Doug. First, may God bless the souls of these great soldiers that gave up their bodies for the cause, for the American cause, Memorial Day tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But I want to talk about the price of oil. In 2008, and Dick and Doug, you'll know, it was $150 a barrel in the summer, July. That helped. I believe that helped. This is my speculation, helped Obama get elected. What was their payment back? Speculation again. Obama gave them cash in billions of dollars in the planes. Maybe that was a payback. Maybe, just speculating.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, if you bring in inflation in 2008, it was over $4 a gallon for gas, and today it's over $4. That would be comparable to about over $6. So the price of gas and price of oil will go down. Now, there is a difference between petroleum and fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are not are limited. So anytime we say fossil fuels, we think, oh, there's a limited supply. But hydrocarbons are they're all over. They're in every planet. It's been checked out in every planet in the solar system. How do we know that? Spectroscopy. We have the emission spectrum from these planets, and we know that there's hydrocarbons like methane and propane and ethane. I spoke about that before. So it's all over. This stuff is being made all the time. Upstate New York, the Marcellus Shale has tons of natural gas. And by the way, that pipeline is starting in Greece, that President Trump is going to bring gas into Europe.
Right.
It should also go to Italy. What about Italy? Maloney has been a double cross in a sense. It's too bad because, I told you I was born in Italy. I came when I was 4. And it's too bad. They can use that too. They could go to Italy and get the pipeline in there, bringing in gas, petroleum, and natural gas. And another thing, upstate New York, underneath the Marcellus, there's a Utica development, a Utica shale that has gas, has oil, petroleum. The first oil well in the world was built in
Pennsylvania.
In 1869 in Pennsylvania.
1869. Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt the flow here because you put a lot of stuff on the table.
Great.
All of it accurate and all of it important. Ultimately, the United States had very limited oil production before fracking. We produced only 4 million barrels of oil a day, and OPEC existed, and OPEC ran the world. Now, with fracking and Marcellus Shale that you alluded to, the U.S. has increased its oil production from 4 million barrels a day to 14 million barrels a day.
10 million.
And has basically replaced OPEC. And OPEC is falling apart. The United Arab Emirates have withdrawn from OPEC. And Oman is going to follow, and a lot of countries are. And eventually OPEC is falling apart. And the new OPEC is Donald Trump. He'll decide what the price of oil is. And he'll do it because of the massive American production of oil. Production which, by the way, Democrats tried to stop entirely.
Of course.
Made illegal in New York.
Sure.
The reason upstate New York is poor, Utica, Binghamton, all that, is Cuomo stopped them from fracking. Mm-hmm. For no reason. There have been no
lost like 30,000 to 20,000 jobs.
Nobody's dead from the stuff they drink.
Right.
And the United States through this has acquired an incredible amount of global power.
And she stopped the pipeline too, right? From Pennsylvania. That's Hochul, right?
She did.
I right with that?
Right.
Uh-huh.
And now we're reopening all of that. And OPEC is losing its power.
We need Bruce Blakeman. Everyone vote for Blakeman.
But I think that we have to understand that in the global oil markets, the U.S. supremacy has become enormous. And ultimately, the Straits of Hormuz are no longer really needed. And nothing could illustrate this better than the small impact that the embargo has had. I mean, so gas has gone up by 40 cents. Big deal. Trump called it peanuts, and he's right about that.
And it'll come right down.
And it'll come right back down again.
That's right.
And in fact, the long-term gas prices will be much lower because of Trump's expansion of American production.
And long-term.
Yeah.
For a long-term, right. And one more thing. We're going to go to a break in about a second. But, we talked about Obama sending money over. And I say this all the time. I want to see the transcripts. Remember when they wanted to see Trump's transcripts with Ukraine, when he talked about Ukraine and whatever that was about. Remember Nancy Pelosi and Schiff? I want to see the transcripts of how Obama thought and who did he talk to about getting on a plane, putting money, dropping parachute money, big crates of pallets of money with I want to see the transcripts. And then we're going to go to a break. I'd like to see him before the end of the break.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Didn't I do one of the opens and it says, you Sunday, you know what that means? Wake up, Dick Morris. No, wait. That's what it means, Sunday. This is the Dick Morris, Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by
Patriot Gold Group.
The greatest guy, Jack Haney.
The Supreme Court said that vote dilution claims against Mississippi and North Dakota need to be re-examined after its recent landmark ruling on reapportionment. The U.S. Supreme Court on May 18th ordered lower courts to reconsider rulings in 2 redistricting cases that concern whether private individuals may sue to enforce a federal law that bans discriminatory voting practices. This is huge. The court directed lower courts to take another look at cases from Mississippi and North Dakota in light of its recent landmark ruling limiting the use of race in redistricting efforts. In Louisiana versus Calais, a majority of the court said that on April 29th, race may not be predominant overriding reason for how congressional district lines are drawn. On May 18th, the nation's highest court summarily dismissed 2 cases, state election boards versus Mississippi and one in North Carolina. The Supreme Court follows this procedure when it wants lower courts to reconsider their rulings using a new legal framework from a recent decision. In the North Carolina case, the Turtle Monument Band...
North Dakota
case, the Turtle Mountain Band, the Spirit Lake Tribe, and 3 Native American voters sued the Secretary of State after the state legislature redrew the boundaries of the legislative districts in 21. The move took the number of majority Indian districts in the northeastern part of the state from 3 down to 1, and the tribes petitioned that this diluted Indian voting rights. They called what was called a private enforcement lawsuit against the Secretary of State to enforce Section 2 violations. North Dakota Secretary of State Michael Howe urged the federal district court to dismiss the case, arguing there was no implied right of action allowing enforcement of Section 2. The court did not rule on the issue because the plaintiffs also pleaded their case under Section 1983, which the court found yielded a cause of action to enforce Section 2. The district court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, finding that Section 2 created individual rights and nothing in the section's enforcement was incompatible with private enforcement. This is significant because it really gives...
I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me?
Yeah, it means that
no clue.
Private individuals can sue if they feel that there are voting rights violations under Section 2. In other words, if your district has been drawn to based on race,
meaning the Indians.
Here was the Indians,
right? Okay,
but in fact now it's being applied in the South, and it's moving congressional seats. In Mississippi, it's clearer. In the Mississippi case, the NAACP challenged a map for state legislative districts. The groups argued that some of the new districts violated Section 2. A district court panel of 3 Mississippi federal judges ruled that the redistricting plan violated Section 2. The state said in its brief that there was a private right of action here. The upshot of this is that the court expanded the ability of private individuals to sue for voting discrimination, and it could have a significant impact on reapportionment. Go to Section 19, please. Fracking.
We have to take a break, right? Let's just take a break, and when we come back, we'll go to the fracking. Okay, great.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, we read all about the scandals in Minnesota. and it's the way the state has been hijacked by the Somali community, by the immigrants who live there. Well, a judge on Thursday handed down an extraordinary prison sentence, nearly 42 years, to the former leader of a Minnesota nonprofit who was convicted in a staggering $250 million fraud case.
Amy
that
Bach
helped ignite an immigration crackdown by the Trump administration. Amy Bach ran Feeding Our Future, which claimed it helped provide millions of meals to needy children during the pandemic. The U.S. DOJ, however, said that she was atop the largest single COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country.
She basically funneled $243 million to businesses that claimed they were feeding those people. Go on.
After the hearings, they announced charges against 15 more people accused of fraud and receiving federal payments for a variety of services administered through Minnesota's state government. The FBI said one man jumped from a fourth floor balcony to avoid arrest.
He was doing fine until that final stop. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what
We'll
happened.
claw back every dollar you've stolen from the American people, Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald said, knowing that the government sent more prosecutors and agents to Minnesota this year. President Trump used the fraud cases against Bach and many others to justify a massive surge in federal agents in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Investigators said Bach's nonprofit was the center of a crime network, this woman that got 42 years.
Good for her.
That included partner organizations, phone distribution sites, kickbacks, and fake lists of children. Feeding Our Future recruited people to create sites throughout Minnesota, and claims of reimbursement quickly followed. Amy was a god, the witness said at the trial. Bach had long proclaimed her innocence, but was convicted of conspiracy, fraud, and bribery. This was a network of fraud, and you were at the epicenter, U.S. District Judge Nancy Brazil told Bach. So they're finally cracking down in a serious sense on this fraud, which was massive. And it really, I think, has created a huge campaign issue. We're not speaking about fraud in the conventional sense of ripping off what happened with somebody. This started with the immigration, where 1 million Somali immigrants were admitted to the United States and they were sent to Minnesota.
Ugh.
That created a critical mass in Minnesota that permitted a congressman, whatever his name is.
Omar Inbred,
to get elected. And as a result of that, an entire network of fraud was established.
Tim Walz turning
defrauding a vast amount of money from the feds. Mm-hmm. And now, with that fraud in mind, Trump is now cracking down on it, stopping it, and the courts are really being very effective in enforcing it.
You got to hear this, though, Dick. I got to talk about this. Companies join a deep-sea mining rush after Trump. This is amazing. In the years since President Trump signed an executive order promising to create deep-sea mining industry from scratch, businesses have raised millions of dollars from investors. At least 9 companies are in talks with the government for access to seabed minerals. This is so amazing, according to the Associated Press. Sections of the seafloor from American Samoa to Alaska could be auctioned for offshore mining this summer and through the fall. All the action suggests that U.S. may soon give the green light for companies to commercially mine the seabed, something that's never been done. But a close look at some of the companies involved reveals uncertain track records and history spattered with legal disputes, while major questions about the mineral will process and refine remain unanswered. Watchers of the industry are skeptical. I'm not. I say it just feels right to people thinking that there is a cornucopia of metals on the bottom of the seafloor that are just there to be plucked up like seashells on the seashore. If there's more scrutiny on their actual financial models, he added, you would go, wait a second, this is much more uncertain. I don't know about this. The agency has so far granted exploration rights to nearly 24 contractors, but has not allowed any to to mine commercially. It's under mandate. The minerals are designed, whatever. Trump's order suggests the U.S. will decide for itself when to mine the global seabed. This is interesting, you know. I had to just go. I skipped half the story, but I had to talk about it.
Well, it's very important. It really suggests that deep sea mining is now, along with fracking, dramatically increasing U.S. oil production.
You got to figure they're going to find something.
I mean, the big story here is that several years ago, several decades ago, everybody said oil is a diminishing resource. We're running out of oil. We're going to be all crash and burn, and we've got to replace it. We got to go with recycled fuels. And Trump is increasingly opening large numbers of areas for mining.
And there's the show. It was an honor to be here. Thank you to Roxana. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?